Hello and welcome to the Compassion Curve for Early Childhood Educators and Providers. This webinar is part 2 of a two-part series that focuses on supporting those who care for the very youngest and most vulnerable in our community. Take the next 15 minutes to focus on yourself and your well-being. St. A is happy to provide these webinars in partnership with the Milwaukee Civic Response Team and 4C for Children. I'm Sarah Daniel, the Vice President of Educational Services for St. A. The mission of St. A is to facilitate equity, learning, healing, and wellness by restoring connections that help children and families thrive. St. A is a human services organization that strives to address the impact of trauma, prevent adversity, and promote resilience. We are headquartered at 89th and Capitol Drive in Milwaukee. The learning objectives for this webinar are listed here. They are, number 1, to understand co-regulation and co-dysregulation and its relationship to the development of a young child's nervous system. Number 2, to learn positive regulatory strategies to promote co-regulation. And number 3, to understand the role of positive relationships and finding purpose and meaning have in your capacity for co-regulation in the workplace. Empathy and caring are essential parts of supporting young children to grow and develop. It is what is required to understand a child's experiences and truly become effective educators. But this caring can have a cost. Perhaps you feel overwhelmed by the needs of the children in your care and you experience compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is when someone is in a caring role and struggles to manage their feelings of sadness, frustration, hopelessness, or anger. Sometimes this leads to burnout, where one may turn off their capacity for empathy and feel consistently negative about their job. Let's take a look at some of the potential factors that contribute to these outcomes. All of us have our own personal experiences and histories that make us who we are. Some of these experiences may include a history of traumatic events that shaped our responses in life. Some of us may be going through significant stress or trauma in our lives right now. These things affect how we are able to show up at work and provide empathy and caring. Another factor that influences us is the potential effects of ongoing systemic stress. Systemic stress is stress that comes from the structures or systems in which we work. Oftentimes, when we are compassionate and empathetic, we may become more aware of the details of a child's or a family's story or experiences. Repeated exposures, or even a very significant one-time exposure, can lead to feelings of vicarious trauma or secondary traumatic stress. This is when the caregiver experiences signs such as flooding thoughts, increased edginess, easy startle response, memory loss, or other similar experiences. All of these factors play a role in the potential for compassion fatigue and burnout. But there are things we can do to influence this outcome. Perhaps we feel like we have little influence over the dosage of systemic, primary, or secondary stress that we experience on the job. But exposure does not determine outcome. The goal would be to have the outcome of our work be compassion satisfaction. This is the experience of feeling proud of the work you're doing and feeling like we're making a difference in the lives of children and families. We do this through buffering these experiences with personal self-awareness, positive work culture, and self-care strategies such as relationship, regulation, and reason to be. We will talk more about these in the next few slides. Self-awareness is the first step to addressing compassion fatigue. It is an ethical obligation of our field because when it is neglected, we can lose touch with the impact of our interactions and responses to children and not be able to accurately gauge if we are doing harm. It starts with a personal awareness of our own experiences, particularly our trauma history, and how that influences our way of being and responses to stress. Seeking professional support as needed to make meaning of these experiences is often key. There are often some red flags that will be a signal to ourselves that we need to engage in more self-care strategies. Changes in activities, problems with sleeping or eating too much or too little, intrusive thoughts, experiencing medical issues such as migraines, digestive issues, or unexplained pain can be a red flag that stress is impacting our body. A final example of a red flag is when we begin withdrawing emotionally or numbing with alcohol or drugs. What other red flags are you aware of for you? Often these red flags are difficult to see when we are experiencing them. Can you partner with a friend or colleague to help you to become more self-aware when you are showing signs of stress, and that person can encourage you to engage in self-care strategies? Beth Hudnall-Stamm has a more formal assessment tool that's called the ProQual, the Professional Quality of Life Assessment, that measures compassion fatigue, burnout, and compassion satisfaction. It's free to download, and I would encourage you to complete this periodically to monitor the impact that the job is having and increase efforts to mitigate negative outcomes and on our well-being. The link to this self-assessment is provided below. A positive work culture can also go a long way towards mitigating compassion fatigue. Encourage active conversations about wellness and well-being at your work. Work-life balance is vital to be effective. Positive culture includes open communication about challenges and positive problem-solving mindset versus staff that engage in venting sessions where people end up feeling helpless and hopeless. Do we allow for concerns to be voiced and then ask, what is in our power to change? Does staff and administration support each other to allow for a staff to ask for help or tap out when they are recognizing they're becoming frustrated or ineffective with the child? Some may fear that this will be seen as weakness or incompetence and therefore end up interacting negatively with the child when frustrated rather than asking for support. If our work culture accepts that stress is part of the job, we will view seeking support as a strength, not a weakness. And finally, do we take the time to have gratitude for the small successes and acknowledge them with celebration, or do we only continually focus on what is yet to be done? What is the current climate or culture of your setting? Co-regulation between caregivers and children is important for healthy development. When a child's stress response is developing in early life, it responds to the adult caregivers in their lives. If caregivers are able to maintain regulation, to attune to a child's needs and meet those needs with empathy and understanding, a child's stress response develops in a way that sets the template for future positive coping with stress. If adults are dysregulated, they are often unable to identify or meet a child's needs, and interactions often cause both adult and child more frustration and dysregulation. If this pattern is consistent, a child's stress response may develop in a way that does not provide them with what they need to cope with future challenges and may impede their ability to engage in learning and growth. Think about the interactions that you experience. Is there more co-regulation or co-dysregulation? Regulated adults equal regulated children. Therefore, adult regulation needs to be prioritized. Look at the items on this list and think about what helps you to stay regulated. Pause the webcast to consider how you can incorporate these strategies into the workplace when caring for children. Working on our own regulation throughout the day will increase our capacity to develop healthy stress responses in children. Relationship is also a key part of what keeps us healthy. Reaching out to friends or our partner can be a great way to get support, and remember that there's more to life than our life at work. One great way to kill two birds with one stone is to engage in regulation activities such as walking, running, working out, or yoga with a friend or partner, even if these have to be over a Zoom call or on FaceTime for now. The needs for regulation and relationship are both satisfied in this way. While at work, it is useful to designate a person as a potential support person. This relationship can be fostered to encourage self-care and to help out when challenges occur. Taking time to debrief when a critical incident occurs to figure out what support is needed and to design a plan for support that includes a focus on your own well-being. Think about your own reason to be and personal mission. Ask yourself, who am I? What am I about? Consider writing a personal mission statement and then ask yourself, what's my most recent evidence of this? This activity keeps us close to our personal values so that we reaffirm each day our life's purpose and renew our commitment to our work helping children to learn and grow. Take a minute to review the strategies discussed here and think about your own self-care plan. Please pause the webcast and determine what you can commit to for yourself. Write that commitment down and share it with at least one other person. Many mental health providers have both in-person and online sessions available, and many insurance companies have temporarily waived deductibles for telehealth services. There are many resources in the community. CNA's link for services is listed below this webinar. Our therapists specialize in supporting educators and those in the helping profession. Here are some next steps. If you are an early care provider or educator in any of the following zip codes, 53204, 53206, 53209, 53210, 53212, 53215, 53216, and 53218, you are eligible to attend a 4-hour training on the 7 essential ingredients of trauma-informed early care at no charge. Please click the link below to register for this training taking place November 30th and December 3rd from 6:30 to 8:30, or you may choose to attend December 7th and 10th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Tools and resources to use in your early care setting will be shared. Seats are limited, so please register today. Also, please click the link below this webinar and complete the survey to receive continuing education credit for this webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to view these webinars.